5:42. No Jeffrey Lichtman today, no David Baroff. Matt is our board operator, and substituting for Jeffrey Lichtman as my co-host is the Mashiach of Talk Radio. With my hands across America, he is broadcasting from Cali, although originally from Staten Island. And Brian, that song, I'm Sorry, is basically what Geraldo Rivera has been singing for the past few days, but more importantly, before we go to what Geraldo had to say and your response to your fellow liberal progressive, it's what Eric should be singing to me from Yonkers. Sorry that he's a member of the Mac cult. He worships at the altar of Steve Jobs, has his iPad, his iPhone, and naturally whatever else has an eye on it. Correct, Eric?
Curtis, I just want to say it's always an honor when you have Brian Whitman on the phone. He's on the air. He's always excellent, and it's a pleasure to have him on the air. He always sounds great, and I love his interpretations.
Thank you.
I really like it. Curtis, now, you understand why Jeffrey and Dave are off today, don't you? They're getting ready for Passover, going to their homes with the feather, looking for the chametz or the scraps of bread or leavened products. Did you know that?
No, being Gentile, boy. How was I supposed to know that?
That's why they're not there today. The reason I was actually calling was, Jeffrey was talking about the Mega Millions the other day, and I just wanted to make sure that there were no beheaded dwarfs or midgets in front of the Empire State Building because Jeffrey didn't win the Mega Millions, and they won. I just wanted to check on that.
I told you originally, and I told the Mashiach, Brian Whitman, when he came on, that I truly thought before I learned that the three winners were from Illinois, Kansas, and Maryland, that Jeff and Dave had basically pooled their resources. They were buying hundreds of dollars of Mega Million tickets each day as the price of the top prize was going up and up and up. Wow. I figured they had basically packed up, left, and it would be me, myself, I, and my shadow the rest of the way.
Right. Curtis, I just want to say I think it's a real mitzvah that you're going to be bringing a Passover meal to a lucky family for Passover. Can we ask Jeffrey and Dave to bring an Easter dinner to a Gentile family tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, in the old Polish Catholic tradition.
Right.
How about goose soup?
Oh, I'll pass.
Goose soup. Anyway, Pesach boy, Eric, enjoy your matzah. 18 minutes strong, right, from Borough Park or Crown Heights. But anyway, Mashiach of Talk Radio. Here is your guy, fellow liberal progressive, Geraldo Rivera. He cannot apologize enough for making this statement originally on Fox and Friends about a week ago.
But I am urging the parents of black and Latino youngsters particularly to not let their children go out wearing hoodies. I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman was.
And then last night, after apologizing for that statement all week on radio, on TV, in every form in print, even on his own website, he apologized directly to Trayvon Martin's appearance on Fox News Channel.
A week ago, I ranted against hoodies like the one worn by Trayvon on the evening he was shot dead by George Zimmerman, because in Zimmerman's words, Trayvon looked like he was up to no good. I said then that Trayvon's hoodie killed him as surely as George Zimmerman did. Now, what I was trying to do was caution parents that allowing their kids to wear hoodies or similar clothing in certain circumstances, particularly if they're minority young men, could be dangerous. But I never intended to hurt anyone's feelings, and certainly Sabrina and Tracy, I never intended to hurt your feelings. I want to personally convey my deepest apologies to both of you. I am sorry if anything I said, Tracy, added to your misery.
Get out.
That's your boy.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I have a lot to say about this, Curtis. Here's what I think, off the top of my head, has happened to Geraldo. And I'm going to go inside baseball here and talk a little bit about the talk radio business for a moment. Geraldo Rivera is a liberal. I'm a liberal. I'm proud to be a liberal. I've been a liberal on the radio since the 1990s. I was a liberal on the radio when it wasn't in vogue to be a liberal on the radio. It still really isn't in vogue. But there was a time there where people wanted to hear from liberals. Not everybody can do this. Not everybody can talk for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day extemporaneously and not say dumb things. Geraldo got a great gig. It's a great job. He makes a lot of money. He works for a network that offers conservative programming. He's a liberal in the middle of a bunch of conservatives, and I'm going to tell you, I've been in that situation, and here's what happens. A liberal talk show host sits there on a so-called conservative station, and they find themselves losing ground. They find themselves sort of losing the audience. And then, whether consciously or subconsciously, they try to gain what I like to call street cred with the conservative people who dominate the radio station's listening audience. And they think, because they're not radio professionals, because they're not good broadcasters, they think, oh, I'll say this. I'll make an outlandish, outrageous statement about a young, innocent, dead black boy, and maybe some segment of the audience will interpret this as me standing up for gun rights or me defending what George Zimmerman did as somehow correct under Florida law. He is trying to gain street cred because he's not confident in what he does. I hate to pat myself on the back, but gosh darn it, I'm going to do it. Not every liberal on the radio is confident that they're good. So they get on there and they say, ooh, there's a bunch of conservatives listening. And they run what it is they're going to say through some sort of filter so as not to alienate themselves from the conservative audience. I've been blessed. When I started at WABC, our friend and program director Phil Boyce said to me, Brian, I know you're a liberal, but we think you're smart. We think you're funny. We know you know New York, and we think you're interesting. Go in there and be yourself. You're going to say things that this audience is going to disagree with, but they're going to like you. They're going to be entertained by you, and they'll come back to listen to you even though you disagree. He never said, don't say this. He never said, say that. He never said, think twice about supporting David Dinkins. Never did anybody do that to me, and I'm a better broadcaster for it. Geraldo Rivera is an amateur. Amateurs go on the radio on conservative stations if they're liberal, and they think they've got to run with the rest of the team. They think they've got to say things that the audience expects to hear on that station. It's an oversight, and he has lost his integrity as a broadcaster, in my opinion.
Interesting. Liberals eating up their own babies.
Yes,
here.
we're eating our own. We're eating our own this afternoon. It's an outrage. I mean, Curtis, you know, I would sit there at WABC. The greatest compliment I ever got from phone callers was, Brian, I can't stand you defending Bill Clinton. Brian, I hate it when you're critical of Rudy Giuliani. Brian, your politics make my skin crawl, but I like you.
That's true. That's true. And, you know, look, Geraldo, although he is experienced on television as a commentator, as a reporter, nobody can take that away from him. I even honored him recently at a Nimrod conference at the Best Buy Theater in Times Square.
It should have been the Nimrod.
It was his 40th anniversary in TV, but he hadn't done radio yet. He does not have the benefit of having somebody like Promise Keeper Program Director Phil Boyce, who is now the Vice President of the spoken word at our parent company here, Salem Communication, for all the stations across the nation. Obviously, he gave you the confidence and the courage to just be Brian Whitman, period. And with Geraldo, let's face it, he's floundering. He's underwater right now. I mean, to have to apologize for something like that so often, you say, man, get hold of yourself. Man up. What's with these apologies?
Right. I think Geraldo's probably a nice guy. I've met him once or twice, and he's always been kind to me. But this, talk radio, this is different than running for political office. This is different than hosting a cable news show. Unfortunately, I'm on a little bit of a rant here, and I'm sorry. Our business, our talk radio business, sometimes gives a show to somebody just because they're prominent, not because they're a good talk show host. And if you're not a good talk show host, you're going to sell out here and sell out there and think what you think people want to hear, and then you have to go on the apology tour. And it's an embarrassment.
Very good, because in the next hour, we're going to talk to another icon of the liberal progressive movement, Keith Olbermann, who is on the outside looking in as a result of a decision by Al Gore and his sycophants at Current TV that I still cannot find on my box. Our number is 877-970-2999. And who did they replace him with? Elliot Spitzer. Oofa. 877-970-2999. Normally you hear criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Lichtman. He's representing some mobster choking on his lobster, substituting the Mashiach of talk radio, Brian Whitman, right here on AM 970, The Answer.